Good evening and salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. I really had to think about that. I say this was a decent episode. I do. I would sit there and say that this was a decent episode. I feel like the Lonnie and Ray stuff um seemed like something that they just kind of cramped in there. It seemed odd. It really did. Um, and I'm gonna be honest. Watching Ray get close to, Lonnie and talk about, oh, I love your kids, and their smiles bring everyone so much joy, and hugging her and manipulating her when she's vulnerable, and Lonnie only sees this guy who is trying to change and be a good dad and be a good person, and meanwhile we all know that the reason why Eli is in that bed is because of him. So watching that scene, especially watching them hug, it was so uncomfortable to watch. It really was. And Lonnie is not my favorite character, and it still just seemed like he just had that look, that level of disgust. Um, So Kate and Chad enact their plan, and Kate comes to Bella and it's like, oh, I want to sit there and talk about my severance package and stuff like that. And so when she opens up her computer to start looking through the files to find, what she can do for Kate, she stumbled upon the planted evidence, that Chad left, that framed EJ. So now she looks at it and she's like, oh man, I did this. Oh, you mean when I was possessed? I got to sit there and right this wrong. So Chad is already there talking to EJ. Um, at first, EJ was like, well, what are you doing here? Like, are you coming to apologize? And he's like, well, no, not exactly. And I'm like, then what the hell are you doing there then? I'm not gonna lie, I don't exactly remember what they talked about, but Bella did come in there and she confessed to the crime that she didn't commit. Felt hell guilty. Um, and was like, we're gonna sit there and get you out. AJ was like, hey, listen, whatever. It wasn't you, and now you got proof to get me out. Now, at some point, um, Bella looks at a piece of paper, and that, the piece of paper was a threat by Orpheus. Um, Bella just had that look like, yeah, we need to get you out ASAP. Now, EJ did want to call, because EJ was looking at a magazine. I don't know if this was supposed to be like a dirty magazine or anything like that, but it was a magazine. The note dropped out, and it was from Orpheus. I was watching a really bad copy, so I didn't read what it said, but it clearly was a threat. So EJ calls up Clyde, and it's like, yo, listen, you need to get your dog off me before I start getting some dogs of my own. Because I said that we were cool, and that I wasn't going to sit there and say anything. So, like, you need to get on that. Because we'll both go down at this point. Um, and Ben is looking at that phone call and he's like, oh, it's from Stateville. Like, what do people think they're calling from Stateville for? Like, what's going on with that? You done with that life, right? So, he originally wakes him up because he's like, yo, listen, you need to get a job. Um, per, the conditions of his release. So after the phone call, they go down to Roman's to, get some breakfast and stuff like that. And Roman comes over and, Roman knows Clyde from the olden days when, Clyde was, you know, doing some dirt. Um, so anyway, he knows him from the olden days, when he was a cop and, um, I guess maybe busted one of his little, drug things or whatever. Anyway, Clyde, drops a mention like, listen, I like to work here, whatever. And then he starts talking about redemption and things of that nature, like, oh well, you law enforcement always talks about how, you want us to kind of redeem ourselves, but you don't give us the chance to actually prove that. Meanwhile, Ben kind of talks to Roman on the side, like, listen, this was not my idea. I ain't want him here, but it's better to keep an eye on him than to just let him just run rampant. So after Roman makes some calls or makes a call, he decides to hire him, and at this point he can keep an eye on him. So it seems that Roman also kind of has the same idea as far as keeping the dude close, make sure he doesn't act up and whatever. Now at some point he does run into Kate. I'm still thinking about the time that Kate shot him. Fun times. So Craig comes by to deliver Marlena the news of her getting fired. And Marlena has this stance like, oh, aren't you're enjoying this or this, that, and the third. Like, here's the thing: she's directing her anger towards him, and in reality, this has nothing to do with him. This has everything to do with the board, and so I don't understand this attitude that people are snipping giving Craig. First of all, they're not there blaming him for quote unquote stealing Kayla's job, when in reality she got fired. Okay, I don't understand how any of that works, as far as like, people just having this warped perception of him stealing her job, which is completely not true. But she's getting upset with him, when in reality is like, I mean, here's the thing. He says that he's taking no joy from it, but I mean, the look on his face is saying something else. So I understand that to some extent. But in reality, this isn't on him. He's just there to sit there and deliver the news. Now, Nancy comes in and they talk for a little bit. And Nancy's like, I need to sit there and see my therapist or whatever. And, Marlena's like, yeah, I don't work here. I'm being fired. So, of course, she turns around and looks at Craig like, well, I can't believe you're sitting there firing her. And I'm like, how many of you idiots are there in this town? On top of that, she finds out that, he's going to be marrying Leo. And of course, she gets into a whole other little tissy fit. It's like, oh, you're ruining my life and you're ruining my daughter's life. I was like, how is he ruining your life by being married to somebody else? What he does with his life is on him. Your little temper tantrum that you're having is a little beneath you from somebody of, well, your age. So anyway, in this odd attempt at trying to save her job, Nancy's like, you're gonna have to get a divorce, and these things can drag out for a very long time. Um, I can sit there and let this drag out, or you can sit there and you can let her keep her job. And I'm sitting there looking at this whole thing. I'm like, how in the world is that supposed to work? Um, well, I don't think that she fully grasped the concept of it's not his position to sit there and say, oh, it's not his position to sit there and keep her on staff or fire her. This comes above his pay grade. So her not giving a divorce, or sit there saying, well, I'll only give you a divorce if you don't fire her, doesn't really add up. And he later runs into Leo, after finding out that Chloe and Brady know about their marriage. And, then he's like, well, listen, we can get married, but under one condition. And I'm like, how on earth? This is making like zero sense whatsoever. And I know this is a soap opera, so certain realities and laws and things of that nature can be altered and stretched. But, like, none of this makes any sense. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to keep her on staff and then what? Then you're just going to sit there and fire Craig. So, like, I don't really. Oh, and Leo decides to just walk in Brady's room, um, with Brady and Chloe half naked, and pretty much tell them that he's getting married to Craig, and Chloe gets so upset. And granted, This is after Leo walks in. And it's like, yo, listen, you need to sit. You need to stop interfering. You need to sit there and stop interfering and accept, me and Craig being together. Chloe just clearly has not learned a lesson and is gonna act like a 12-year-old child. And it's like, well, we're only doing this because of blah 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 blah. So just the usual Chloe nonsense that comes out of her mouth. Um, But yeah, he's like, yo, listen, we're gonna get married, and that's gonna be that. And of course, Leo can't be Leo without, taunting and poking the bear. So he starts talking about, oh, you can call me daddy, this, that, and the third. And at that point, it's like, all right, Leo, I think you kind of overstayed your welcome. You might wanna kind of just, you know, skedaddle. Um, and towards the end, Marlena thanks, Nancy for something that they're helping. Marlena is a very interesting character because I haven't been watching the show that long. I feel like I have, but I haven't. I don't know much about Marlena, but she seems like she's a very principled woman. And to sit there and watch Nancy blackmail Craig into keeping her job and not really saying anything except for saying thank you just seems, I don't know, for somebody who seems like who comes across as very principled, it didn't really seem very honorable. And for her to sit there and say, "Oh, thanks," it's like, yeah, thank you for blackmailing him into keeping my job, or not even sit there just looking at it overall like, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that," but it's not really his call, and they're probably going to want to fire me anyway, and they're just going to want to firing him and getting somebody else to do his job for, you know, for him. So, what she said was just thanks. Thanks for what? Delaying what is already going to wind up happening eventually anyway? I don't. Okay. Wow. I wonder what's going to wind up happening to Bella at this point. Now that, she admitted to being the one that framed EJ, like, is she going to go to jail or is she going to go to Bellevue? I mean, what is she going to sit there and say? The devil made her do it? And then, oh, well, you know what? The devil made her do it. So, no, we're not going to find George. You're not going to go to jail. You're going to be fine. The devil made you do it. And yeah. so Bella goes to jail and Lucas lives, happily ever after with Sammy off screen because reasons. I don't know. I mean, I know, the actress, Allison, she has her own projects going on. And you have Lucas that wants to spend time with his family, or the actor that plays Lucas wants to spend time with his family. So maybe this is the reason why this is going on as long as it is. But I get it. With these characters, it's one of those things where it's like, who else can sit there and play Lucas but Lucas? I mean, this guy has been, well, being Lucas, oh, around the time that payphones are around. You know? Remember payphones and VCRs? Yeah, that stuff. He's been Lucas since that time. So I get that they don't want to sit there and recast him or temporarily recast him. Like I said, the Lonnie and Ray scenes were fine, but it just seemed like it was kind of like cramped in there, you know? Like nothing changed in Eli's status. It seemed like they got closer. It made me uncomfortable watching because knowing what kind of man that he is, and for him to sit there and do that, it just seems so icky. Um, and again, like I said, the whole scene just seemed like it just kind of got forced in there, but what else? Anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna go. Thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video.